Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Doc T.
Oh, good grief. I've got your website here on my phone. And your website is Carousel Farms with an S .org, E-O-R-G, E-O-R-T-H. Sorry, carouselfarms.org. And everything you want to know about Bonnie and her organization is on this website. And I encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast to go visit Bonnie and her website to understand. But I know Bonnie for, I think, 5-6 years. Lost track of time.
Yes, indeed.
And I've known all of her horses. And if I were going to sum up everything that Bonnie does, it's basically this. Bonnie takes damaged horses and damaged people and brings them together and has magic occur. So that's it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you do other things. I know you have parties. I know you paint ponies. I know you bring joy everywhere you go, and glitter. Glitter is everywhere. There's glitter on bathroom doors. There's glitter on the floor. It's such a happy place that every time I go see you deep in the heart of Louisiana, it's just always a happy moment. And I know you know that, but I'm just telling the world about it, because just take one look at your face and you're bubbling. And this is your personality. But some of the stories that you've got, I wanted you to have an opportunity to bring these stories in your own words forward and tell me a little bit about yourself and about some of the things that have happened at your farm and any place else you want to go, because I know you have notes.
I have notes to follow in line, to go present, past, present. That's my goal. But I know, I thought, how can I put this all together? How long do we have?
No ending, but I'll cut you off if my stomach starts growling.
Okay. All right. That's great. Well, Carousel Farms is the name of the farm, and it's home of Equine Reflections. That's our nonprofit where we do equine assisted mental health services, equine assisted learning, corporate team building, leadership programs for youth. And one of my well, I love them all. Come to think of it, I can't say my favorite is Say Whoa to Bullying and Giddy Up to Kindness programs. So people can also look up on equinereflections.org to get other information about the mental health services. But, and I guess what I want to start off, and then I'll get down to me, is horsepower. When I mentioned the word horsepower today, what do we think about? Doc T's big fancy car that can go really fast and big engines and big motors, right? That's what usually people talk about or think about when you hear that word. But the horsepower I want to talk to y'all about today is truly nestled in the heart of all the horses that we love and work with on a daily basis. But what about, the horses from the past? That's why I wanted to go present, past, and then back to the present. Think about the horses in the past and how they got here today. Look at everything around us, cars, trucks, boats, airplanes. The horses in the past were all of the above. They were actually a modality. They were a piece of equipment to so many people. And luckily, we've come a long way, baby. Right, Doc T?
Yep.
On how we care for horses, and especially their teeth with a specialist. But when you think about everything that they've done, and in those times, these horses were not treated very well at all. Again, they were just being used as a modality. And because I have all of abused and neglected horses, that's why I wanted to go back to this. How did we get to where we are today? And the first, I think, from all of my research, believe it or not, was the first book ever written, and it was in 1877. And guess what? It was Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. And it was the first book ever written from a horse's point of view. and the book was aimed to introduce kindness, sympathy, and an understanding and kind treatment of horses. And believe it or not, this beautiful book was intended for the adults working with and abusing these horses. And it ended up, I believe, selling over 30 million copies and being a children and adult classic. And the most important, I think, point of this book was it started a rallying point for the British and American societies for the prevention and cruelty of animals.
I need to pause you for a second. And if you could relocate your camera so your face isn't off screen.
Oh, sorry.
And tilt it down so we can see you. All I've got is a big orange ceiling. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh my gosh.
You can't see yourself, can you?
No, I can't.
That's perfect.
Because I'm on my phone.
Yep. That's perfect. If you just keep your phone there, that'll be great.
Okay.
All right. So Black Beauty.
Yes, Black Beauty. And I have written down a quote that most people have never heard. It took a lot of research to find this. Again, think about it. 1877, this book was written because she was able to witness the bearing rein. I think a lot of people don't even know what a bearing rein is. And it was a rein used for horses and buggies and carts. And it literally pulled their head in and down. And the horses had a lot of trouble breathing. It caused all kinds of upper respiratory issues. And it also was extremely painful. These horses, when these bearing reins were taken off, a lot of times the horses would collapse. And it was really, really tough. So anyway, this author of this book, and she was actually in her 50s when she wrote Black Beauty. And I think she died 3 months after it was actually published. So she didn't get to see all the royalties and the difference that it made in everyone's lives. But her quote, it reads, "If we see cruelty or wrong that we have the power to stop and do nothing, we make ourselves sharers in the guilt." And because of this book, others started changing the ways these beautiful, majestic animals were treated. So then we come back to, more present day. And I can talk to you all now about our horses. And luckily, like we said, everything has changed and horses are valued. We still have, some abuse, and but it's a lot less. And it's, most horses now are, it's revenue producing for people. It's pleasure. It's companionship. It's competition. There's so many different ways that horses are with us now today. But how we use horses here at Carousel Farms, home of Equine Reflections, is on the ground. They're never ridden here. These horses get to be our partners in helping people deal with their trauma from day one. We can see a difference from day one. And I guess I should start with my story. Why am I doing this and how this came to be? I was sexually abused as a child, and I was silenced by my abuser, and he was a neighbor, and I was at his house all the time because he had numerous horses in his backyard, and it was walking distance from my home. So just like everybody hears on the news and stories, you're groomed for quite a long time. And you think, this is the greatest person in the world. And when my abuse happened, I was threatened after, like so many people are, and I was silenced. My family was threatened. I was threatened. I better never, ever open my mouth. So I became silent on this. And I guess the toughest thing for me, because even as a kid, I used to always put my emotions on my shoulders. And I had to shut all that down. No matter what was going on the inside of me, I had a smile on my face. I had to pretend everything was okay, so I wouldn't be injured and my family wouldn't be injured. And again, in a 9-year-old's mind, that's what you're thinking. I don't want my mother killed. I don't want, my father killed. So this is so typical of abusers. So I was blessed as a child that I had horses in my life since I was in diapers. And I would go to the barn, and the only time I would cry was with my horse. So I can say I was truly, truly, truly was saved by a horse. And now you're getting back to where we are now today. I just feel incredibly blessed to be able to help others, working with 1,000+ pound teacher and partner, to help change people's lives for the better. So that's how I got to where I was and doing what I'm doing now. And with all the teenagers and children that I work with, either by myself with equine assisted learning, and we'll get into that a little later, and or with a licensed mental health counselor, which is equine assisted, mental health services. It's just, it's just amazing. It's just amazing what we do. But for example, the mental health sessions have to include a licensed mental health counselor, and an equine specialist or a horse specialist, and they help with growth, healing, in an exponential, therapy type method, and that just means learning by doing. So you get these clients out in an arena, and for example, maybe the first time is going to be a group of horses in the arena. So it would be myself, the mental health counselor, in 2, 3, 4, 5 horses, depending upon the age of the client. And the difference between equine assisted learning and equine assisted psychotherapy with a mental health professional and therapeutic riding is, in therapeutic riding, the horse is chosen for the client depending upon the disability, the size of the horse and or the client. And with equine assisted learning and equine assisted mental health services, the client gets to choose the horse for themselves. And in a lot of cases, it's the first healthy relationship they've had after their abuse is with this horse. So, for example, the client will come in. We always talk about safety. They get to just watch these horses. So while they're watching the horses, their story is starting to be created, and we let them be the author of the story. They rule the roost. What they say is where we go with it. And they watch the horses. And for example, we had one horse, a specific case many, many, many years ago. And my licensed psychologist was there with me. And 2 horses that never fuss, never do anything, literally started chasing. Each one horse was chasing. And we know as horse people that horses, being the alpha, was trying to get it away. But in our sessions, we do not open our mouth. We don't want to put a word into the client's story. They get to create their own story. And I'll show you how powerful this is. When this horse was biting the other horse on the rear end, the other horse was kicking and trying to get away, the therapist and I were looking at each other and we're going, "Oh, this is really getting bad. What do we do?" And we didn't say a word. We held our ground, thinking we're here for that client. And the question was asked, "What do you think's happening out there?" And this little girl said, "That horse is kissing the other horse on the hiney like Daddy kisses me." So right there, this child had been in talk therapy for quite a long time. She was silenced. but the story came out because of the horses.
Wow.
And right there, Child Protective Services, the police, we had to call everybody right after the session. We got all the notes, and the story came out, and the individual was arrested and put into jail.
Wow.
And that was on session number 1. So it's so neat because you can see results happening, not always on the first time, but this was definitely on the first time. It was just due to the horses just being horses.
You know, Bonnie, you've told me story after story about how these children are silent, unable to speak, unable to talk about what their trauma has been. And we all know that these horses that you have found have also had their trauma. That's my wife's telephone coming off of her computer. Oh, well, let's lay plans. Anyway, and you tell me about how they select each other. And I hear these stories of children just opening up. Now, as a horseman, I know that there's incredible communication with horses, that they have their story. And I always say to them, I follow Robin Williams' lead. I stick my hand up and I say, talk to the hand, which means you've got a story and you want to say it. Then I say, call waiting. Let's create a new story. And every horse wants that opportunity to speak their new story, not, oh, here comes the man, here comes the vet. This is never going to work out right. And in your case, these horses have an opportunity to see these children and allow them to talk and say things that only these children can see, where you and I, we're like clueless. Look at those two horses, attack, one's attacking the other. And they just see it in a different light. It's just so magical. And I hope that you keep telling me these stories. I know your bravery to tell the world about what happened to you is something that you've dealt with, and I'm only learning recently about. And it adds depth to what you're doing. It's not like, hey, I want to do this for others, but I've been there and I know it works. So I'm really impressed. You've got the expertise, you've got the knowledge, you've got the faith, and you put all these things together. And the magic that you have at your farm is mind-blowing to me. And I can't wait to hear some more stories. So keep going.
Well, and again, talking about these sessions first, the horses seem to know what to do. And why is that? Why horses and why not dogs? That's a question I get all the time. And we're dogs, and I started and ran the pet therapy program at a big hospital in New Orleans called Ochsner Hospital. And we brought in dogs, and we just brought in dogs. And one day I was asked to bring in a horse for a dying patient. So, it took a while to get infectious disease, to get permission to get a miniature horse into the hospital. But when they said, why not a dog? The infectious disease doctor said, we've already gone through this. Why not the dog? Well, the dog is so medicinal and so special and so powerful. They are trained to be in the hospitals. They're used to noises. They've been through numerous types of training. They're going to love that client or that patient no matter what. So hence the horse. You bring in the horse, and the horse in these sessions are going to be themselves. They're prey animals. They have heightened senses, so much better than ours is, I think everybody knows they're seeing, they're hearing. And, what kind of drives me crazy is when the people that don't do continuing yet on knowing how to treat horses, some of the old time trainers, that horse is just crazy. Well, no, he's not. We all know that horse could hear something, miles away.
Yeah.
And, so I'm always the one, taking up for these horses. So in these sessions, these horses sense and they know. And whether I'm by myself with equine assisted learning or with a therapist, it's just blown away almost on a daily basis what these horses do. Just yesterday, I had a client, and I know I told you this story. You told me, oh, tell the story. You can tell the whole story. But something else happened pretty remarkable, because this particular girl, and she was sexually abused in a classroom at the end of last school year. And she went through trauma therapy, months and months and months of trauma therapy. Then she graduated to come here for her equine assisted learning about how to move on from that trauma.
Wasn't she bullied into this?
She was forced. And again, that's where I really have a problem. I think we mentioned it. What's the difference between being sexually abused and a bully? I know there are many differences, but it all depends on what's happened to you. But in this case, it was a big, strong football player. Mm-hmm. And he got this beautiful girl alone. And you told me I could say this out loud, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because I gotta cringe with it.
Hey, the president talked about it. You can talk about it.
Okay, well, he made her perform oral sex on him. He took her phone and he recorded it.
Yeah, that's the part that just adds just a whole nother layer to this whole thing. He recorded the whole incident
on her phone and sent it to all of her friends.
Yeah.
And then he shows it to all of his football player friends, and they're all, go away, you go, boy, good for you, and this and that. So they're all flirting with her. She reports it right away. And the school, did what they were supposed to do, but it was another trauma incident for her, how it was handled. Nothing was done privately. There were probably 6, 7, 8, 9 people in the room. The school policeman said, I don't know how to handle this. I've got to call in somebody else. So numerous other police agencies came in. And anyway, she was bullied with the police there. She was bullied. Then the bullying started. She had the sexual abuse. Then the bullying started when she reported it by all the guys, the football team, the guys' best friends. So she dropped the charges. Right. And when she dropped the charges, all the girls started bullying her, calling her a chicken. Why'd you do that? You're no good. And so she was back down in what we call that rabbit hole. How do I get out of this? I thought I did what I was supposed to do. And again, she was threatened by this individual. So, just like most people, you want your life saved, you want to live, you're going to do what this abuser says in so many cases. And, so anyway, the horse, this story, she went through trauma therapy, and then she comes here to learn how to move forward. And she was one of the most positive girls after everything she had been through. From day one, I fell madly in love with all of them. But this one particular girl, I have them fill out a questionnaire. And one of the questions was, what is good in your life? And her comment was, I have a roof over my head and a loving family. Well, almost burst into tears.
Sure.
I've never seen a teenager say anything like that. And it was asking, I guess really the question was asking about their treasures, because I started off with what's called a treasures program to find their inner treasures. And most kids say, oh, video games, silver, gold, money. This girl said a roof and a loving family. So I knew how special she was from day one. And the horse that she chose was Chance, our big old draft horse that you're very familiar with. Yep. And this horse has a heart of gold, but he also he was probably the worst abused horse I've ever come in contact with in my life. He was beaten he was beaten in the face with a chain. And I actually saw a video. I couldn't watch a video. He was beaten in the face with a chain, lip twitched, ear twitched, he was actually gelded without anesthesia, with all the restraints on him. His leg was tied up, and he was actually cattle prodded. So everything in the world scared him. If you would sneeze, if you would walk, I mean, he was just frightened.
I'm laughing because throw in there an equine dentist.
Remember the first time I wanted to tell you, you said, don't tell me. Dr. T said, don't tell me anything about this horse. So all I did was a sign of the cross. And I'll never forget, you said, Bonnie, you shouldn't have told me. You shouldn't have told me. And Doc T had this horse's head in his lap. I actually had to take pictures and videoed it. No one believed you, because you're such a true horse person, what you were able to do with this traumatized horse. So
you just needed to trust somebody. That's all.
He did. And it took, usually it's 3 months when I get these horses in before I'd ever consider using them in session. And this horse, it was a lot longer, just because he would run from people, and, he's a smart horse. Why not? Yeah. I mean, he remembered. To me, he's one of the smartest horses around. He was very aware of his environment, just like these sexually abused kids. Hey, check your environment. Don't walk out, just like the horses do naturally and normally. Again, it's why they're such good teachers. So anyway, with all that abuse, and he had seen a couple of clients, and when this girl came in, she saw him. And I tell them, depending upon their age, they get to hear the stories, and then they watch and observe. And literally, this horse walked right up to her. He had never done that, so that was something really unique. And a smile came on her face. She said, "I want him." And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of this healthy relationship. He has taught her so much. And granted, I'm just there as a facilitator to interpret the horse's body language. I don't put words in her mouth, because, again, remember, it's the client's story. So many times you want to make a suggestion, and you can't. And well, I can't say can't. Sometimes you have to, but on the norm, you don't. Just keep quiet and let the process happen and develop. Let this story keep going on and on. So this horse has helped her pretty much through everything. And just yesterday, she's sitting down at the table with Chance, and he's behind her. So literally, he's got her back. And she keeps turning to check on him while she's filling out her evaluation. We get every client to fill out an evaluation. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And we tell them just to be brutally honest. What'd you like? What didn't you like? Did you feel safe is the key question. So this horse just always, I think she's been here 10 times with Chance. He just always stands by her. He doesn't move. He yawns, which could be interpreted as calm down. Everything's going to be okay. He doesn't yawn around anyone else, only around this client. But anyway, she's going back to school, and I had to bring up
high school.
High school, yes. I had to bring up a question. She has had a restraining order, at the end of last school year. I said, "Are you sure that restraining order is still valid?" She said, "Well, I would assume." So I called Hope House. It's Children's Advocacy Center that sends these clients, and it's just a wonderful nationwide organization that works with trauma victims. And they checked on it, and sure enough, the restraining order had expired, and he was in her first class. They were able to pull him out almost immediately, but trying to prepare her for school, and what if you see him, what if, and talking about personal safety. This horse was all over her, nudging her in the back. He literally put his face on her face and kind of pushed her head. And I thought, this never done that. He stands there. So I kept asking, I said, what I want you to, what is he saying? You're going back to school. You're going to be around some individuals you're not comfortable with. And she told me that during the session. And so she came up with it herself. And it was exactly what I was thinking: personal safety. He got in her space very uncomfortably and taught her again personal safety. Where's your personal safety spot?
Yeah.
Said, all right, let's practice now. You're not going to allow him. What can you do until you feel safe? What's a safe distance? So she, very kindly, she got up and backed him up, and then he walked right back up to her, and he was persistent. Yep. This horse, and she's so mild-mannered anyway, it's like, all right, it's time to increase your energy a little bit and help me understand where you want me to be. And sure enough, she was able to back him up, sat back down. He was maybe 2 or 3 arm lengths from behind her. He just watched her and stood. And so what did you learn from that? I'm going to be aware of my environment and everything around. This will never happen to me again.
Unbelievable. Now, how? I mean, I know you're going to say, I don't know, but what do you think? What is happening? What does we know physiologically that our brains, they're large, and so is a horse, and they've got all the parts that we've got. What is it about the horse's brain, or whatever it is, that connects with these people, that can understand and give these kids what they need? How do they select them? How does the horse select the person? What's your theory on this?
Well, it really is a guessing game. And there's another horse that usually picks the client out, that stands in the back until it's time to be chosen. And whether that client's picking the fun horse that's running around, playing and having fun, or the horse isolated by itself, or is it the horse that walks up to them? So Chance only walked up to one person. Usually he stays or plays with his buddies in the arena. But the interesting thing with that question is, and I love that question, is it the brain or is it the heart? And I'm into my newer studies, and I think I told you, the Heart Math Institute, they've got all kinds of equine scientific studies now, and it's starting to answer some of these questions. Why does the horse do this? And they talk about, the heart actually has a bunch of nerve endings, which is considered a brain inside of the heart. But it's one of the really fascinating, it's called Heart Math Institute.
MATH?
Yes, MATH, then institute.com. And it's amazing. And then in the Google search, you won't see anything about horses until you search it on their site. And and just either horse and or equine, and their studies will come up with what they've done. So I'm in the process of that certification right now, and it's fascinating. And they also talk about, with our trauma clients, how to calm, breathing techniques, and things to do out in nature. So it's a wonderful, wonderful organization.
Well, I've always said that energy is everything. And I think I told you that I'm stuck somewhere between the telescope and the microscope, because I want to know what's all the way out there beyond the stars, and what's down here smaller than the bonds that hold the molecules together. And
exactly.
And it's all about energy, and whether it's coming from the heart or the guts or the microbes in the gut, the two-way street in the vagus nerve, the brain. We discuss it all in the Horse's Advocate, but never have I heard it explained in story as I have when I come to your place and hear these stories of children who are virtually lost to society, who can't open their mouths anymore. And I know you have tons more stories, but it's like when you tell me that the kids are there and the horses are out in the arena, and then the horse selects the child, and the child accepts that selection, and then they bond and they turn around and say something like that little boy who hadn't talked. Was it Faith the donkey or somebody? I can't remember who.
Yes, yes.
Tell us that story and bring to life that connection that you see. And I know you can't say why, but just let us all stew on that. Let's all think about how, everybody owns a horse, right? They go out and they feed it and they demand that it does its job, and they put it away and they say, see you tomorrow. And so many people miss this connection that is possible that we can all have. So tell us about that little boy, because it just blows my mind.
Okay, and I'm looking up while I'm talking to you on my computer a testimonial from the mom from this little boy, and it pretty much says it all. But this little boy was bullied at school. He had just lost faith in people and mankind, and he was sad all of the time. Plus, having autistic, symptoms. He was never really diagnosed, but they did have him down with numerous symptoms. So I don't know, the story on that. But he and his bigger sister were both abused by the same individual. So they were coming here two separate sessions, but back to back. And his first day, he saw Faith. And Faith, again, is the little donkey that, they say, smart ass. She really is smart. I'm using it in a positive, loving term.
Yep.
This little donkey, I'll tell you how she came to be. I got a phone call from the sheriff's department that there was a donkey loose, and the donkeys were being brought to a kill pen. I don't know how many of them were in this old beat up trailer, from what I was told. And you got the picture. Oh, I love it.
Isn't that great?
Faith.
That's little.
With their
there's Faith. Yep.
With their Easter hat on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, at the gas station, Faith actually broke out of the trailer and took off running. They couldn't catch her. And so, of course, it's all a matter of time and money. The trailer pulled off with the other poor donkeys going to the sale or the kill pen sale. And they couldn't catch Faith. And she's running across highways. And what are the wonderful men in blue doing? And all the bystanders, they're chasing her.
Uh-huh.
So here is the prey predator, again, and it's why don't people realize? And so I got the phone call and I went out there, and all I did was, and it was in a rice paddy field, drenched with water, with all the rain Louisiana was having at that time also. And I just sat down, and I had my halter, I had my lead rope with me. That donkey came right up to me, and it was like, finally somebody that's not going to want me for lunch or, something. So They said, how did you do that? And I said, just don't chase them. They're prey animals.
Yep.
Y'all are going, sirens are going, lights are flashing. Yep. So brought her home, and, she took a while because she was so thin. And again, as most people know, they don't care if they're thin. They'll bring them to a lot to fatten them up to get more, and more money for them per pound. So she was pretty thin and pretty weak. So pretty friendly. But once she started feeling better, we couldn't catch her. It took a while to develop that relationship. So once she was allowed to be in the program, and I have a covered arena, and I have my miniature donkey and my two other miniatures loose all around the arena. And Faith chooses who she wants to go with. Yeah. If she walks up to you and lets you pet her, you've got something. You've got something. She's reading those heart patterns, brain patterns, whatever it is. Yep. But if you move too fast, she would take off. So with this young boy, she went right up to him. And he had chosen a horse. He said, I want her. And so we let her in. And again, this was also an equine assisted learning session. That donkey went everywhere with him. She was still a little hard to lead at times.
Mhm.
He could lead her. He brought her through obstacles.
Yep.
And I'm trying to keep my mouth from dropping, my chin from dropping to the floor. And then he sits down. We have a big table in our arena for people to do their paperwork or to sit and rest. And that donkey goes right up to him. She literally put her head on his back, his shoulder. And I think I showed Doc to you a picture
of
this
gorgeous picture.
Closing his eyes with his arms wrapped around her shoulders, and his eyes are closed, and then face closes her eyes.
Yep.
And I thought, all right, just let it be. Just let it be. And so he loved Faith. So I'm looking right here. I'll read you. Okay, here it is. This is from the mom. My son's outlook on life has completely changed. He sees so many possibilities now. His confidence and self-esteem grew so much. He was bullied and was sad and afraid all the time. Thanks to ER and Faith, his life is the best ever. Yeah, so that was her, that was her little note at the end of that session when she saw the difference in him. So again, just showing the power of these horses.
Yeah.
And another, I'm sure people remember hearing about JC Dugard. She was the abduction case, abducted. She was abducted. I'm tongue-tied. And when she was 11 years old, and I think she was gone for 15, 16, 17, 18 years before she was rescued.
Yeah.
And you can Google her. She actually was healed by a horse. Her family, after being separated for 18 years, I'm pretty sure it was 18 years, she had had 2 babies while she was with her, the people that took her. And she was stuck in a backyard, and I think a neighbor or something saw something and finally called the police to get her out. But she didn't know how to communicate with her family. So most from what I see consistently from hearing these I don't want to say victims, trauma survivors. That's what I like. They're survivors. They survived this. She didn't know how to talk to her family. She's been locked up for 18 years, given very little food and water, and she was sexually abused. She had 2 kids by the man in the family. And so she had her children to care for, and that was her only means of, communication. So when she was saved, her comment was, I remember meeting her at a equine conference, and she said, I did not know, like I said, how to talk to my family. What do you say to somebody you haven't seen in 18 years? I was 11, and I guess she was in her 30 something years old when she was able to come back home. And the whole entire family went to, I don't know which place it was, but it was, again, with mental health counselors and equine specialists and horses. And she literally says she was saved by the horses. They brought her back hope and confidence. And then with her family in the session, since it was all about getting to know each other, it opened up a conversation that she didn't have the words until the horses came into the picture. So now she has her own, therapy center using horses and other animals, because she's another one that says, I was literally, the horses changed my life for the positive. And animals, she has numerous animals at her place. So that was another story. It was on the news, and you don't hear about it too much anymore since it was a while ago, but just another success story about how these magical animals, just change people's lives.
So I hear all these tremendous stories, and they're unimaginable, the trauma that these people have gone through. But then every day I come across horse owners, and you guys out there listening to me, you might be one of them, that I come to your farm and take care of your horses. And they are looking at horses as therapists too, just a way to get away from the job, or maybe a relationship that they're not having, or a relationship that they're having that they don't like. They come to the barn as almost therapy. And I warn people that they can't look at the horse as a therapist, because oftentimes these horses have a story and they need therapy too. And all it's simple. And if there's one overriding thing that I pick up from all these stories, is it allows communication to occur. Somebody to hear my story, and somebody that I can hear their story, and we can work it out together. I know when I work in a horse that I've never seen before in a stall, I open up this channel of communication. It's almost become, second nature to me. But I'm blessed. But I think the story that you're coming across is so spectacular. But a lot of people listening to this podcast would like to know, how can we make this work for me and my situation? The horse may not have been abused, or we don't know. And the person may not be abused. But I think everyone brings baggage of some degree to the barn. And how do you help people how can we get people to understand that horses can help you, but you can help horses too? How do you get this two-way communication going? I know you've said this 3 times already. You just allow it. You just shut your mouth and allow it. Is that simple? You just allow it, or is there something more?
Well, again, the horses are going to react in different ways. And I kind of think of, and you don't have to have rescued horses. It can be your own private horse. It could be a show horse, retired race horses. They have horses of every breed, every discipline in these services now. So it doesn't matter what, if it's abused or not. You just have to make sure the horse is safe. But how do people help the horses? And I'm glad you said not to call them as therapists. We did that in the beginning because we really believe that, because they do so much of the work, but then you really do expect a certain outcome with that terminology. Mm-hmm. So we call them as partners. Mm-hmm. And if you're a partner with a friend, with a horse, what do? You don't boss them around all the time. They're not going to want to be with you. Right. So that's what I'm kind of thinking of with that is mutual respect. Yep. Again, we need to be the two-legged leader, but the kind leader. The amazing stories. I know we talked about Dr. Stephen Peters, with his brain studies with horses. Right. And I know one of the classes I took, and it was with Dr. Peters. It was a Zoom meeting in Martin Black. Right. And it was about Chance. I actually had a question I sent in about Chance because of his overreacting at certain times. And how can I get him over this? What are you two experts with a horse that's been so damaged? And I took away from that, and it worked. I tried it the next day after the seminar. Yeah. The power of the wait. Don't rush. And it used to be the one lick and chew and then move on. They said, yeah. Oh, no. Wait. And a big piece of equipment that the 2 trucks with some work going on my farm were there, and Chance would not walk by. Yeah. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to see right now about their theory, the power of the weight. And I thought, boy, and I like getting down to it really fast. So I thought, nope, I'm going to wait. Yep. I'm going to wait. This horse is worth his weight in gold. And maybe 10, 15 minutes, which most horse people would never wait. They're going to back up. They're going to, hey, you better come on. You better do this. You better do that. My time is limited. And the power of that weight was so powerful. That horse, he licked and chewed, and I thought, okay, he's not going to do it again. He did it again a few minutes later. I waited. He wanted to back up. I let him back up, built that confidence up. And maybe 10 minutes, he walked right by this object that was going to eat him alive. So I think with people, the best thing they can do with horses, and it would help their life too, is we're all in a hurry. Don't rush. The power of that weight. And your pause with your hand.
The time you expend, or that is quote unquote lost in waiting, is gained back tenfold as you move on with your relationship. It's just, you have to trust that process. If you just go in there with an agenda and say, this is what I'm doing, like, I'm going to walk you by this truck. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Versus what you say, just stop, wait, let them come to grips with it, understand it, communicate that you're not going to push them into a dangerous situation. And then they start to read your energy. And I've always said energy flows like water, always downhill to the lowest point. If your energy lowers, the horse is going to lower its energy to you. But the horses tend to raise their energy, and we come up to that to match it or even exceed it. And they will say, oh, no problem. We're going to raise ours. And it's constant battle and kaboom. And if you allow them the time to wait, you're actually checking yourself and keying yourself down and breathing yourself and getting over the anxiety and the pressure of your agenda and the time commitment. You realize that there is no such thing as time in the universe. Time is just a man-made thing of cycles of sun and the earth going around and around every 24 hours. There's so many minutes, 86,400 seconds in a day, and it goes tick, 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 tick. And like, I've got to be at dinner, or I've got to go to bed, or whatever. I've got to meet at 3:00 for this, meeting that you and I have, and we can't do that. And that's the secret that you have. It's just such a blessing. Every time I get out there, it's so much fun because you just keep bringing the horses in. And I keep going back and forth and just doing them. And they're like, this is no big deal. But if I knew all their stories, I don't know if I could go into the stalls the same way. I would just be saying, oh, well, somebody beat you in the face with a chain. And here I am taking a long metal stick up near its mouth. And I would just, you help me when I come there, believe it or not. Every time I walk in the stall, I feel helped. But going there, it's just how many people you've helped. I mean, you probably don't count, but it's got to be just thrilling for you, just so thrilling. And a weight that you carry because more of them come to you. And you think, oh my God, how many more people are out there damaged? How many more horses are there? How do you keep going?
Oh, because I love horses. I know how they saved my life. And to share that is such a joy and power. Talk about horsepower. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've got a big horse heart in my heart when things like this happen, that I'm blessed because I'm living my dream. And when trauma happens, you don't understand it. We're not supposed to ask why, but now I know why it happened to me. Look what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're the person who says the glass is filling up. It's like for every door that closes, a new one opens. You're such a positive influence. And I know the kids feel safe at your place. And is there anything else you want me hear, the audience wants to hear about your place or what they can do to help, or not just in your neighborhood, but their neighborhood? Let's say they live in another country. How can they start? How can they get going in something like this? How, if they want to be part of what you do?
Oh, okay. And I've got a couple resources written down. We have for therapeutic riding, they do equine assisted learning. It's Path International. I think most people, and you can just Google Path International. What I'm most recently certified with is EAL Academy. They're online. They have trainings throughout the year to teach how to be a facilitator. You don't have to be a mental health professional. Then the other one I'm working with now that I'm so happy with also is Arenas for Change. And you could Google that. And then for mental health professionals, it's called Horses for Mental Health. So those in the Heart Math Institute that we talked about earlier, those are places to go, and anybody can look up, my website, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, help anyone about how these horses can help you and help anyone. Like you said, everybody has trauma. Everybody has something in their life that that affects them, and how these horses can help, and how we can help the horses.
It sounds like you're working with children, and I know that there's plenty of adults, and there's also the military veterans who are now seeking help from horses. Do you have one or two stories that you can help us out with that?
Oh, yes. My favorite veteran story is, and it was a gentleman, so nice, post-traumatic stress. And I guess he was here for 12 sessions. That's our norm. And then they can come back, once a month, or they can come start volunteering, after, if they want that connection with the horse. But this gentleman, after he would work with his horse, he said, "Can I clean the stalls? Can I do this? Can I do that?" He didn't want to leave. And he wrote a note that day on his eval. He said, "The only nights I sleep without nightmares is when I leave the barn."
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I still love, that's why I have the energy. I don't care how tired I get. You think about these people that it's giving them, in a lot of cases, a lifeline for life.
Wow. I know it's a lifeline for me. Every day I get to go out and work with these horses, traveling around the country. I feel that every day. I know you feel that too.
Yes.
But to take someone who has these traumas and allows them a toehold into a life that can be, and then watch them climb out of their darkness into something that's a little bit better, that's got to just thrill you to no end. Just to no end.
It does. And one other quick story about Chance. We had a client, and she was actually a mental health, or is a mental health professional, that had a lot of early childhood trauma. And we had another horse that was for her, but we decided, let's switch up horses. Yeah, there's some beautiful Chance. And again, Chance seemed to know what to do. We have words written all around our arena, and we ask them to choose a word for them and their horse. And this lady was not able to talk. She was in a bad state of depression that day. And I'm here with the mental health counselor. I was not, it was myself and a mental health counselor. And the word Chance stopped at was mend, MEND. And then he stopped, dead in his tracks at "there's always a tomorrow." Then he starts licking, putting his chin on her head and licking and pushing. And we said, what do you think's going on? She said, "Well, I didn't want to tell you all. I've been hitting my head and I've been bleeding." So it's called head banging. And
oh my God.
She was a cutter, and she has been hospitalized numerous times. And this was the first time, and Chance stopped at Mend, and there's always a tomorrow. So here is your, let's get this out in the open, which he did. And she voluntarily talked about it. He would not take his mouth from where she had wounds on her head. And then his second stop was at There's Always a Tomorrow. So don't always a tomorrow. Do not give up.
Bonnie, I don't know how much more of these I can take. I got goosebumps going all the way down my toes. I know
it's hard for me not to cry, but I love it. I love it. So, yeah.
Tears of joy, though. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. Tears of hope, I think I would call it. Tears of hope.
There's so many people are getting into this therapy, and I know many of them in Louisiana. They're great friends of yours and mine. They're wonderful people. And they're in New York, they're in Florida. I see them all. And every one of them is contributing to their little neighborhood and helping. And I'm so grateful for all the people who invest in their lives on usually a shoestring to make their lives happen. How can a regular person, let's say there's a multimillionaire out there listening to this, or somebody who's got some extra funds, how do they help all the organizations, and even yours in particular, and all the friends that you have in Louisiana? I don't want to leave anybody else out. I know if they're listening to this, I love them as much as I love you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, all of these places have websites, and we do too. And again, a lot of the clients cannot pay. And for example, we had a group of foster care children that the success rate with what we did a pilot program for a group of foster care without charging a dime. And a lot of these children were never held as a baby. They didn't know what love was. They're angry. They act out. They have no emotions. And the difference in these children after, I think it was a 10-week pilot program we did, was like night and day. Well, these families don't have money. So, having to raise money, every nonprofit is trying to raise money. And our goal at Equine Reflections is not to have to charge a client a dime to raise money so everyone can get help. And believe it or not, 1 in 5 individuals suffer a mental health issue in their lifetime.
Wow.
And depression is number 1 on the list for disability. Anxiety, I believe, comes in second. And if a white coat or a clinical session, we work in addition to, we never take a client away from a therapist. We'll work with a therapist if they're also seeing a therapist, but it's all expensive. And our goal is to open the doors to anyone with the epidemic of mental health issues and they're struggling with life to be able to come and get services.
Mm-hmm. That's a tall order. I think there needs to be a national, if not international, organization just focus on the horses that help maintain the horses, because the expense of keeping a horse is so great. It's almost unimaginable. You just can't neglect them, because I don't want to say that they're as you said in the beginning, an instrument like back in Black Beauty's day, where they were just a tool. But they are tools on your farm. When we take the emotion out, they are tools that need to be maintained or they die. And if we keep them healthy, we keep them going longer, so it's a better return on investment. I mean, right? I mean, forget the emotions of it all. How many chances do you get to have a chance or a faith? And you don't want, and when they are so positive, you don't want them to fade away. You want to keep them going. And maybe there's somebody out there. I'm trying to work on the health issue, but somebody could help fund all the people out there who have these therapy horses. I think it would just be wonderful. Something some sort of grant that will help you guys.
Yes, and I think the last time I checked, the average yearly cost for one horse is $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if that's correct or not? That's what
it's more than
found.
a couple of oil changes in the car. I know that. And then you add in the cost of gas and oil changes. Yeah,
Yes,
it's probably about having a car in the garage. Yeah.
Yeah, it adds up. So all the help is greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make sure that you have I'm going to put on the summary for this, all the links that you're going to send me via text when we're done here.
Okay.
So make sure that they're all perfect, and I will post them. And any donations of anybody who wants to contribute to this good work, to you or to an organization in your state or a national organization, I would love to see those links and see if we can get some people moving some money to help you guys, because what you do is so critical, so grateful, and so much better than drugs. Let me tell you, so much better. Here, take a pill or be with a horse. What do you want to do? I go with a horse.
Exactly.
Every time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
God bless you, Bonnie. It's all going to be there in the show notes. I can't thank you enough. Again, I look forward to coming out there. All the people in Louisiana are special. They're just so nice. Not that the other states aren't. Don't get upset with me.
Southern hospitality.
Uh-huh. We're more Southern than you are down in Florida, just because we're all New Yorkers. So thank you so much. I'm going to end recording, and it's painful. I don't want to. I know people don't want this to end. They want to hear more stories. So maybe you need to write a book or two, a couple of more books. I know you've had one.
I will. Yeah. We do have one, Clyde, the Never Give Up horse.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Bonnie, for spending your time here with me.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There are two reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.